Understanding valuation methods. So let's look at what are the different valuation methods that the valuers actually use to determine a value of the property. So let's look at the first one being comparable sales. Very similar. What's everything else in the area selling for? That's similar to what they're valuing. So 3-bedroom townhouses versus 3-bedroom townhouses in the same suburb, in the next street, and so on. So that's what comparable sales is. A lot of you would be able to. I use this method all the time to be able to ascertain what everything is going to be, because going into a lot of nitty-gritty detail is actually you're just going to confuse yourself. So some of this is actually a repeat from the financial feasibility module, but not all of it. But I need to cover this because those are the methods that are used by a valuer in order to determine the value of a particular asset. So income capitalization, for example, usually happens in commercial and industrial investment property, and is based on the income generated by the property. So depreciated replacement cost, which is land value, plus improvement cost, which is renovation or development cost, less the depreciation. So that's another method. Discounted cash flow. Now the template that you have does not have all of these, but it does have the residual land value based on development margin, and it is suitable for projects that are under 2 years. And it can be really useful. I use it all the time. There is no residual land value calculation based on internal rate of return or the net present value in the feasibility template that you get with the course. So discounted cash flow, as explained in the financial feasibility module, it forecasts the value of the property into future, say 10 years, and determines the value of the property at the end of the term, and then discounts the value into its current or net present value. So NPV is equal to discounted revenues less discounted costs. Don't let these things confuse you, just know how to use them. A positive NPV implies that the present values of income is greater than present values of cost, therefore the project is feasible. That's what you need to know. Think of it as a businessman. Think of it as Richard Branson. You don't really need to be a pilot to be Richard Branson, but you can own the full airlines. So that's how you need to look at all these nitty-gritty things. So internal rate of return, which is basically the discount rate, and the discount rate where NPV is equal to 0. That's what a discount rate is, where the net present value is equal to 0. So, and I've explained what NPV is in detail in the financial feasibility module. Maximum interest rate that can be charged to a fully funded project before the project would show a net loss. So let's look at residual land value, different ways of calculations, calculating RLV, calculated on target development margin, and that's what we've done in the financial feasibility template or the application that you've got with the course, based on the maximum price of the land that the developer would pay to make the calculated development margin, which is also equal to the target hurdle rate. Target hurdle rate is equal to developer's required return for the project. Calculated on target IRR based on the maximum price of the land that the developer would pay to make the calculated IRR, which is equal to target hurdle rate or their NPV. And internal rate of return takes into account dimension of time into account and uses it to differentiate projects of different cash flow exposures. So RLV based on development margin, projects for used for projects less than 2 years, and RLV based on internal rate of return or net present value is used for projects that are over 2 years. So if you've gone through the financial feasibility module and the template and you understand those things nicely, these things should not bother you that much. Mostly projects 2 to 3 years, you can determine the value of the land based on the development margin or the target hurdle, right? And you can determine how much you should be paying for the land. And if you've gone through the financial feasibility module, it explains everything in there.